Thank you for joining us. I've asked Mr. Henderson to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hey, won't you join me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kevin Cook. I'm the chair of the Shawnee County Commission. Joining me today, we have Commissioner Shelley Bueller. Good morning. Good morning. And then Commissioner Archer was unable to join us in person, but he is participating by telephone. Good morning, Commissioner Archer.
Good morning, Kevin.
All right. Madam Clerk, if we could start with our first item.
Item 1, proclamations, presentations. Update on Vallejo. Bill Percy, your CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bueller, and Commissioner Archer. Yeah, you should have the report there. And Commissioner Archer, I apologize if you may not have the financial report. I was able to send it by email yesterday, and I can get that to you if you don't have a copy.
Oh, Bill, I got it, and I reviewed
Super.
it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, we'll start out with a financial report, but before I do, I want to introduce a couple of our governing board members. Dick Klein, known to all, and Frank Henderson, second place, known to all. So, I don't think any other board members are out there this morning, so I just want to, again, give a grateful word to those guys for volunteering so much of their time and helping oversee the mental health center. And again, thank you to the county, our oldest customer, more than 50 years now. Thank you for your support. The financial report is, of course, an unaudited statement. It's our income statement as of 12/31/17. It does show minus figure of about $330,000 in change. That's roughly 5 days operations. So told a couple of people if December had been one more week and it had all been revenue or no expenses, we'd have broken even. So we missed it by just a little bit. I will tell you, we continue to, cut where we can and look for new revenue, and we have an ongoing, pretty vibrant program of team meetings internally where we're always looking for ways to save. In fact, we are going to move quite a bit of stuff out of paid storage and into a building that we have that's already paid for, and a lot of empty space there, so we'll save thousands and thousands of dollars a year just that one move. And that's kind of a small example. There's some other bigger examples, but we're just trying to move forward and do what we can. 2018 is going to be a bit of a challenge funding wise. It was going to be our year statewide for mental health. Some grant money was restored and Medicaid rates were restored, but at least for Vallejo and some of the other mental health centers, Medicaid continues to be a challenge. Just in terms of, the billing and so forth. So that's kind of where the deficit figure comes from. Medicaid's just not the revenue source that it used to be. At one point, Vallejo probably billed out something like $14.5 million a year in its $22 million budget for Medicaid. Now we're billing out maybe $11.5 in about a $19 million budget. So we've just kind of seen a bit of a kind of a valley there. So we're hoping for good things, though, continuing to go forward. We are going to be the recipients of a $500,000 grant from KDADS, the Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Services. Secretary Keck and his group have awarded us a $500,000 to fortify the services at our 24-hour-day crisis residential facility. We'll be able to add more security personnel. These will be off-duty police and sheriff's officers who are trained in crisis intervention and help us maintain security there, keep some more folks out of the state hospital at home where they can begin the recovery safely. We can get some quicker medication to those folks. We'll have a small emergency fund we can use to help them get back on their feet. And though I haven't seen the final numbers yet, pretty sure there's going to be funding in there to cover our co-responder program 24/7. Now, co-responder, for those that may not know, is basically it's a program where police are joined on the street by a licensed social worker. We do that now Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. We get some support from the city and county and the state and Vallejo chips in some money on that now. But we believe there's going to be funding to run that program for a third shift. That's overnight and then on weekends. So 24 hours a day when there's an individual on the street or some other situation, where they not, may be at risk, and we can have a well-trained law enforcement officer approach the individual and with a licensed social worker find out what their needs are, see if we can prevent a hospitalization, see if we can prevent a trip to the emergency room, keep somebody safe, get them to shelter, do a screening, find out what their mental health needs are, if any, get them into detox. We'll just be able to address, people who are at risk right now, and we think prevent a lot of costs on down the road. So there's some good news out there. I want to say thanks again to the St. Francis Foundation for a $250,000 grant to help us reopen our primary care clinic. And so I can stand here and tell you lots of good news financially, but, with just the changes in Medicaid and managed care and the way that's going, it's just not been enough to offset, some of the additional, or that loss of revenue. So lots of good news financially, but, kind of stalled out in one area. So anyway, don't want to spend too much time on that, but I would be glad to answer any other questions you may have. Had a great year last year for fundraising. It's our best year ever. I don't have a firm number. As soon as I do, I'll get it to you, but we had a very good year thanks to the support of the community and the governing board and others who donated to Vallejo, to our foundation. The task force that Senator Hensley appointed me to provide KDADs with some information from the field that they could put together in a report to the legislature has concluded its work, and that report has begun to be passed on to the legislature. I think there was a committee hearing this week where some of that information was brought forth. It makes all kinds of recommendations on adult and children and family mental health. So I was honored to serve on that task force. Senator Moran's health care staff member, Joe Badger, stopped by the office last month, and several of us met with him, or a month before last, and met with him and shared some information about mental health and addiction. So we appreciate the attention there. Want to give a shout out to Judge Lori Doherty Bixel, who's the new judge in the alternative sentencing court. Commissioner Cook, you've been active with that group. I think we're seeing a revitalization of a program that helps adults with mental illness who may have had a criminal filing find an alternative path to recovery rather than being sentenced and going to jail and so forth. And it would certainly defer to any remarks you may have about that. You've been working with that group a long time, but Vallejo is pleased to be involved in an opportunity like that, and I think Judge Bixel is going to bring a lot of new energy to that. Also, we're involved with officials from Douglas, Wyandotte, and Johnson County to develop a new housing alternative for adults with mental illness. It's a model out of Missouri that's been pretty well funded by Medicaid, so we have some hopes there. It's one of those kind of good things we hope is on the horizon. Had a legislative gathering yesterday. Senator Kelly came by and 7 or 8 other legislators from Johnson, Wyandotte, and Douglas County to hear about this approach out of Missouri that we think holds a lot of promise for housing for people with mental illness. It's basically a residence of 2 or 3 people who have staff 24 hours a day to provide them services for a short time till they can get back up on their feet and maybe take advantage of one of our residential care facilities, maybe move out on their own with supports. But it's just another way to support recovery of people with mental illness. Peace and Justice Center, we just began to do a little bit of work with those folks here recently on violence and gun violence, and just a lot of good folks working out of the Peace and Justice Center there at 29th and McVicker. Just some outcomes data to share with you. Again, we're continuing to be a little more sophisticated with that. We're working with a couple of the managed care companies on some pilots, and where we can actually get a better look at the outcomes for our consumers. And a couple of the MCOs have been pretty complimentary of Vallejo's involvement there. We're just real grateful that they're able to share data with us and help us improve our services to people. So Commissioner Cook, Shelley, and Commissioner, we would conclude our report there, unless there are remarks that maybe Frank or Dick might have.
Commissioner Bueller?
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Very thorough. Thank you very much. Thanks for your board as well.
Commissioner Archer, any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Bill and his leadership team. I know that money gets tighter and tighter, and they still do an amazing job. On the co-responder, you are pleased with the success of that, Bill?
We are, Commissioner. Thank you for that question. We're working on maybe getting some better outcome data there. I think we're going to try to do a homegrown in-house study using our own personnel to maybe examine some of the more high-risk cases that have gone through there and try to ask that question, what might have happened to these folks had that law enforcement officer, had that social worker not teamed up on the street to help these individuals. We know that we had something just over 1,500 such contacts last calendar year, Commissioner, and I think the arrest rate was about 2%. What we don't know is how many of those individuals would have been arrested, had we not been there with some kind of proactive support and intervention. And not that everybody we come across has committed a crime, and we don't want to paint the program that way, but sometimes the potential is there when you're at risk and you're on the street and you're hurting and, things just aren't going well for you. Sometimes, bad things happen, and we think we were able to prevent a lot of those things. I just can't stand here and tell you how much of that. We know that we prevented some jail bookings and some other costs to society and so forth on downstream. But we're pretty proud of that program and looking at it going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bill, I know that, money is always a precious commodity in order to make the revenue, so you were $330,000 at a deficit. Medicaid is an impact. What about the admittance numbers? Do we see our need increasing in Shawnee County?
We do in certain areas. The demand for social detox, which we're open for that 24 hours a day. Folks simply can drive up, walk in, and obtain social detox services. Law enforcement does bring some folks, and pretty high demand at the residence at our 24-hour facility at 400 Southwest Oakley. The demand for folks who are seeking housing is increasing pretty well, but the admission rate is running about the same. It goes up and down 2 or 3 or 4% every year. But what we're seeing is not just the numbers being pretty steady, but the acuity, the needs, the risk of folks coming through. In what they're seeking for services, and so we're seeing just more individuals with high risk, and so that's why we applied for the grant to try to fortify our 24-hour program.
So is it fair to say that you're seeing more crisis needs?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And so
I don't have a number for you though. I can't tell you. There's a report. I'll check when I get back to the office, but.
I know that our hospitals are often overloaded with emergency room, and that's where we need services, and we look more towards preventative care. Does Vallejo do the same thing, and how can we address some of the preventative care so that we have less crisis care?
One of the things that we're doing, and well said, and I have referred several times to trying to work upstream and interact with people before there's a crisis, or maybe when there's a smaller crisis. And so we have worked out a pretty good arrangement with both the emergency rooms where the traffic back and forth is happening more quickly and more proactively, and we're all working to reduce that. One of the things we are doing to work upstream or to work with young adults who are having their first episode of acute mental illness. We have a program there that's funded by the state of Kansas, and we know that's had quite an impact on the lives of about 25 to 30 young people between 15 and 25 each year. We've been running that program now just over 2 years, and we have every indication from the state that will continue. It's one of those early intervention programs that we know addresses a crisis before it happens. So,
very good.
I've got
thank
one
you.
more question.
Yes.
Bill, with that, the negative amount, how do you cover that?
Well, so we have reserves that would last about 4 months if all revenue stopped and operations continued at the same pace they are now. We have about 4 months worth of reserves that we hope to never have to use, because since we can't seem to, last couple 3 years, create enough money to put money in reserves and take care of other things, we don't want to start hitting on that. But that's kind of the last resort as you begin to draw on your reserves. So we have cut some positions and consolidated some positions and changed up our programming and reassigned people to certain places. The middle management positions and some of the senior positions we've collapsed and changed. And I can tell you that at one point Vallejo had, I'm going to use the number, about 11 therapists who provided traditional once-a-week 60-minute counseling, and a very important service. And that number is going to look more like 6 or 7 going forward. So that's just one example of where we've trimmed back on a department. We achieved a lot of our savings by applying managed care principles, and as much as that's affected our practice with third-party payers, we decided to use it ourselves and apply it to the uninsured. And so we're very, very careful about the amount, duration, intensity, type of services that we provide to the uninsured. We don't turn anybody away, but we just monitor that very, very carefully using some approved managed care techniques internally. So,
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Commissioner Archer, any other comments?
No,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you, Bill, for a presentation today.
appreciate all the time this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Madam Clerk, our next item.
Item 2, unfinished business. Number 1, acknowledge receipt of the petition to create Sterling Chase Subdivision Number 1 Street Benefit District Phase 3. Hold public hearing and consider resolution number 2018-3 authorizing the creation of such street district, and resolution number 2018-4 creating Shawnee County Main Sewer District Number 69, lateral sewer district number 5, and authorizing the construction of the sewer.
Move to open the public hearing.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller to open the public hearing,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Public hearing is now open.
These resolutions are in response to a petition that's been filed by developers requesting that you create a street benefit district in the Sterling Chase subdivision number 2 and a sewer benefit district, Main Sewer District 69 lateral 5. Basically, the proposed street and sewer district will serve the same 22 lots. The petitioners have asked that the street cost be assessed over a 20-year period of time to pay back with permanent financing from bonds, and the developers are paying for the sewer improvements, and they've been working with Tom on this project for, what, Tom, 9 months now?
This project, the county is not obligated for this project.
The creation of the subtaxing districts is wholly discretionary. And the statutory provisions provide on the streets in particular that if there's lots and blocks laid out in the unincorporated areas of the county, 51% or more of the owners of the property can request that a street benefit district be created, have the streets constructed, the streets belong to the county, and the improvement costs associated with the streets are then assessed against the lot owners. They have typically 30 days to pay their assessments fully, and if not paid, we typically issue 20-year general obligation bonds, and there are lots and blocks that are assessed over a 20-year period to retire the principal and the interest. Same thing with the sewer districts. It's just it's sewers in the unincorporated area of the county. Back in, I think it was the early 80s, they kind of redid the sewer and stormwater district benefit statutory schemes to make them a little bit more flexible for developers, in particular in response to the growth that was going on in Johnson County. In this case, the developers want to pay for the sewer improvements themselves, but it seems to make the marketability of the homes that Chuck Doltmeyer and John Rolandhagen, the developers, market to the potential buyers. Should we issue general obligations bonds, though, Kevin, those will be an obligation of the county. And those persons who do not pay their assessments will be basically treated as unpaid taxes after this 3-year period, Jim?
Yes.
Commissioner Bueller, any
Any
questions?
questions?
Commissioner Archer, any questions?
No, I don't.
Is there anybody in the public that would have any comments or questions about this item? Okay.
I'll move to close the public hearing and adopt the resolutions.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller to close the public hearing and adopt the resolutions.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0.
Thank you.
very much. Our next item.
Item 3, consent agenda.
There are 9 items on the consent agenda. Any questions regarding them?
I have no questions.
I'll move to approve. I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer to approve the consent agenda as presented, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item 4, new business, A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
The vouchers are totaling $1,762,953.14. Of that, pooled cash and payroll is $614,298.07. We have holding accounts with the state of Kansas, $367,865.21, and health insurance, $121,845.13. Of note, too, is solid waste, which is an enterprise fund, not general fund tax dollars, $188,268.88. And I have no questions. I would move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller to approve the vouchers,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll make a motion to approve the correction orders.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller to approve the correction orders, and that passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item A3, acknowledge receipt and consider approval of request for financial commitment for Sterling Chase Subdivision Number 1, Street Benefit District Phase 3. And this is required under county resolution, follows up with what Mr. Perry just spoke about. So this is the financial holdings that we keep in case the subdivision went to specials, and for some reason the developer would not come forward with and would not follow through with payment. We hold this in the meeting. So
To add what Cindy said, we've also had the developers execute a guarantee personally and as in their capacity as trustees of their trust estates. And they guarantee, under that guarantee, the prompt and full payment of any special assessments that are to be levied, together with the prompt and complete payment of all of the sewer districts. So the guarantee that Cindy's talking about is 30% of the cost that's required with regards to the special assessments to be assessed on the streets, and the guarantee will cover also the streets special assessment as well as the cost for the sewers.
Commissioner Archer, any questions regarding this item?
No.
Commissioner Bueller?
I have none.
Okay. At this,
I'll
okay, go ahead.
move to acknowledge receipt and approve the request.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer to acknowledge receipt and approve the request. That was seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. All opposed? That passes 3-0. Our next item.
item B, Bond Council, number 1, consider approval of resolution number 2018-5, requesting that Shawnee County, Kansas Public Building Commission issue its revenue bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $32 million, the proceeds from which will finance additions, improvements, furnishings, and equipping improvements to the Shawnee County facilities located at the Kansas Expo Center grounds.
Good morning, Bob Perry. On November the 30th, you passed County Resolution 2017-77, under which you created the Shawnee County, Kansas Public Building Commission. The purpose of the PBC is basically to help the county facilitate the acquisition and financing of capital improvements. Those improvements are then turned around and leased back to the county. Under the PBC statutes, you need to formally request the PBC to issue the bonds. Once that formality is completed, we're going to have a PBC hearing following this particular hearing, or this meeting, and at which time the PBC will consider passing its resolution of intent, under which it expresses its intent to issue its revenue bonds not to exceed $32 million. This is the preliminary step in order to start the financing.
Very good.
Commissioner Archer, any questions?
No.
Commissioner Bueller?
None.
Okay. Any public comments or questions? All right.
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller to approve the resolution,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you. Our next item.
Item C, County Councilor, number 1, consider approval of resolution number 2018-6, establishing the Shawnee County Commission districts.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Krause, Shawnee County Councilor. As the clerk stated, this is a proposed resolution that's been prepared by the County Councilor's office that would do some alteration to the existing commission districts. I've got some background information for you I want to go over to explain the process, the statutory requirements, and where we're at population-wise with the current districts, and then what we would look like afterward. Let's see if I can get this set up. There we go. Okay, the last district redistricting that was done by Shawnee County was done in 2013. We're not required to redistrict every 3 years, but by statute, and that's KSA 19204, we are required to review this issue every three years. The standard in the statute is fairly simple and straightforward, and that is that commission districts are to be as compact and equal as possible. That doesn't require exact equality, but it does require us to try to make them as compact and equal as possible. In Shawnee County in particular, we try to have equality in total population in each district, and we also work toward, which is a little more difficult, we also work toward equality in population both inside the city limits and outside the city limits for each commission district. Here's our current totals. District 1 has 31.9% of the population. These are numbers from our GIS department. That's who we asked to provide the numbers. District 2 has 33.8% of the population, and District 3 has 34.3%. So we're starting to get a little bit imbalanced between the three districts. These percentages are within constitutional standards. We wouldn't have to make a change, but as they indicate, since the last time we redistricted, we are moving in the wrong direction, so to speak, in terms of the equality of the districts. Here's the proposal and what's in the new resolution. District 1 would now be increased to have 33.6% of the population. District 2 would have 33.4%, and District 3 would have 33%. So that would put us more in line and within 1% from top to bottom in all three districts. If we adopt the new resolution, then that'll satisfy our statutory requirement to redistrict and take a look at this issue for at least the next 3 years. Hopefully, and that'll depend on, as I was speaking about this with Commissioner Bueller this morning, hopefully that'll put us past the next census and we'll have the next census numbers in, and then that's when we'll really have probably more of a major look at a more substantial redistricting probably at that point in time based upon what the new population numbers would be in the census. Here's the proposed new district map, and I will zoom in here in just a second, but the black lines are the existing lines. The colors that creep within the black lines will show you the changes. Now, none of the changes are for the unincorporated areas of the county. The only precincts that we've moved in this redistricting are within the city limits of the city of Topeka. And to focus in on it, because District 1 was the one that had less population, and District 3 had the most of the changes are moving precincts from District 3 to District 1. And what we tried to do was make that as logical as possible. A lot of the changes move it so that now you can go to 29th Street in a certain area, and if you move along 29th Street, north of 29th Street's in District 1, south of 29th Street is in District 3. We did move one precinct from District 2 to District 1 to even out that line. We did add a few precincts into District 3. That was to make that, instead of cutting that neighborhood in half, having one entire neighborhood within that district to make that a little bit easier to handle too, and to meet our standard of making our district as compact and equal as possible. That's an outline of the proposed changes. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Again, the hope is if we make these changes, get ahead of the movement that's already been occurring, that'll keep us within constitutional standards until after the next census.
Commissioner Archer, any questions?
No.
Commissioner Bueller, any questions?
I don't have, well, actually, Jim, this is not a home rule resolution. It is a resolution, so it just requires just one reading.
This is not a home rule resolution. This is a resolution that we are empowered, we take this action pursuant to state law,
Okay.
and we're required to take this action, or at least look at it every 3 years. So this is authorized by state law, so not a home rule.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
There's been a motion to adopt.
I'll second, but I do want to check to see
Yes,
if there's anyone in the audience.
Any questions from the audience as to this proposed resolution? I know that we have a representative of the League of Women Voters that comes to watch our commission meetings, and I know the League is very involved in watching voting and making sure that things do operate smoothly and fairly. And if there's any questions or comments from the League, I see none. And also, I represent City Councilmember Cohen, is present as to whether or not any questions or concerns from the city. All right. Motion has been made to adopt by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Jim, thank you very much for you and your office working this out and helping balance out the districts.
Thank you.
Our next item.
Item D, Public Works Solid Waste. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-15-2018 with Schmidt, Beck & Boyd Engineering, LLC, to prepare plan specifications and bidding documents for Sterling Chase Subdivision Number 1 Street Improvement Phase 3, Northwest 53rd Terrace, Northwest Sterling Chase Drive to Northwest Fielding Road and Northwest Beaumont Court at a total cost of $29,500 with funding from the Special Assessment Account.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Block with Public Works and Solid Waste. This item, as well as the next one, are in relation to what Mr. Perry spoke about earlier regarding the Sterling Chase subdivision addition. In this respect, when we go through this process, our department is involved in the administration of these contracts. The developer chooses the consulting engineer that they wish to work with, and we administer it on their behalf. Ultimately, all these costs are paid by the developer. So this is just standard course for these types of projects. So it was our recommendation that this contract be approved.
I'll move to approve the contract.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook to approve the contract, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
D2, consider authorization and execution of contract C-16-2018 with Schmidt, Beck & Boyd Engineering, LLC for construction engineering and staking services for Sterling Chase Subdivision Number 1 Street Improvement Phase 3, Northwest 53rd Terrace, Northwest Sterling Chase Drive to Northwest Fielding Road and Northwest Beaumont Court at a total cost of $36,500 with funding from the Special Assessment Account.
Commissioners, Tom Block again, Public Works and Solid Waste. This item is, the prior item was regarding design and bidding services for this project. This item is for construction engineering and staking services. So as in the same regard as the prior item, we recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, our next item.
Item E, Facilities Maintenance. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-17-2018 with Piping Contractors of Kansas, Inc., PCI, for replacement and renovation of existing HVAC system at the North Annex at a guaranteed maximum price to be determined upon completion of design from the 2017 capital outlay budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. This item is the design-build contract with PCI, who we selected following an RFP last fall. It's taken a little bit of work to get a good design-build contract through our legal department and through PCI, but we finally have one. And this would move forward with the lease replacement of the chiller that has been causing problems every couple of years out at the annex, and hopefully go a little bit further depending on what our guaranteed maximum price will eventually be.
Any questions regarding this item?
I have none.
I'll move to approve the contract.
Second?
Motion made by Commissioner Archer to approve the contract, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item.
Item E2, consider authorization and execution of contract C-18-2018 with Arment Enterprises LLC for custodial services at the Courthouse North Annex, 2 Health Department locations, and the Elections Office at a cost of $10,771 per month, with funding from the operating budgets of Facilities, Health Department, and Elections.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. In December, we received our responses back to the RFP for custodial services for the locations noted. Arment Enterprises was the lowest of the 5 responses as far as pricing, and following checks of their references and an interview that Linda Oakes and I conducted with the Arment rep over at the Health Department, dealing with some of their concerns as well as ones we have here at the courthouse and the North Annex, we'd like to enter into a contract with Arment Enterprises. Josh Wilcox of Arment is here today to answer any questions that we might have, and I'll leave it at that.
If Josh, if you would be willing to come up and just talk to us a little bit about Arment and who you are and
Good morning, everyone. My name is Josh Wilcox. I'm actually the Senior Account Manager for Arment Enterprises. We are located in Columbia, Missouri. We were founded in July of 2010. We started out with like Hy-Vee grocery stores doing their floors, and which now we have approximately 100 grocery stores to 150 all total combined. We also provide services for Dollar General distribution centers, Bass Pro, mental health facilities, as well as your local office buildings, ranging from anywhere from 500 square feet to roughly 150,000 square feet on a 7 days a week basis. So we have extensive knowledge, background, and we're operate out of approximately 10 states.
I know that one of the concerns that we've had in the courthouse has been with making sure that we have individuals that clear background checks, given that we have very sensitive information, whether it's with the courts, the district attorney's office, health information, health records, election records. Those are all very sensitive items. What kind of background checks do you do?
We do full background checks on all of our employees. Since we are in mental health facilities, especially, there's huge issues with HIPAA violations. So we are very, very strict, and then we follow up usually with quarterly reviews of background checks just to make sure something wasn't turned in. Because unfortunately that does happen from time to time. Somebody will get in trouble and fail to mention it. So we do follow up with, random background checks, and plus if anything doesn't seem right, we definitely follow up with that as well. But it is our utmost concern for our clients to make sure we have properly trained and properly background checked employees at all times.
The individuals that would be doing the cleaning, are they employees of Arment, or is Arment subcontract out with other cleaning companies to do the work?
No, that's where we differ. We do have a few subcontractors in grocery stores across several states, but all of our employees, especially the employees that are myself, they are all employees of Arment. The only time we ever differ from that is we do have a few contractors who do grocery stores. Outside of that, they are all employees of Arment Enterprises. So I would say probably roughly 95% of our employees are people we work with, our employees.
And you said that you're located in 10 different states at this time?
We operate out 10 different states. Our home office is in Columbia.
Okay. And then do you do other courthouses or government-type buildings?
The only government-type buildings we do are, we don't have any other courthouses, sorry, but we do like Bass Pro. Dollar General distribution centers are, the one in Pennsylvania is roughly 900,000 square feet, and we clean both the distribution center, the offices, the restrooms, extreme high-traffic places.
And you said mental health centers, and so... you have-
Pathways, Compass Health.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Bueller, questions?
I think we've had several companies. We're looking
ma'am.
for some consistency.
Yes, ma'am.
How many companies have we had, Bill, in the last?
3 in 3 years now.
Yeah, yeah. So we're hoping for the best.
Absolutely, and I plan on providing it, as well as, I kind of spoke with Bill today that one thing that is going to make us a little bit different, because I know that you have a little bit issues with attendance, and we will provide a working supervisor Monday through Friday, not just a partial shift, but he will be here from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. to make sure that people are showing up to work, that there is nothing going undone. Bathrooms are readily available for complete cleanness and stocked, and so I believe that we're on a good track to make sure that your services are above expectations.
Commissioner Archer, questions you might have?
Yeah, I thought we had more like 20 different companies in the past 3 years. Do you have other customers in Topeka area?
We are getting ready to bring on several grocery stores in Topeka, but I'm not at liberty to say the name yet because the contract's not finalized.
Okay, but you are going to have other customers here.
Yeah, multiple, yes.
Okay, that's all I had.
At this time, I'd like to ask, I know we have several department heads available. I see Chuck Heitens with the courts present. If there are any questions that elected officials, department heads might have before we consider action on this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Linda Oaks from the Health Department. I don't have any questions. I do have a couple comments. I was really pleased with our conversation with Mr. Wilcox about what they can provide for us. Obviously, cleanliness in a health department is really important, and we need to have that. And I want to thank Bill also for including us in the whole discussion. I felt it was very well done, and I'm satisfied that we're going to get some good service. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Charles Hadvis, District Court. I know that Mr. Kroll's been working diligently on this, and as he has taken the comments of the Security Committee for the courthouse to heart, and I'm sure that those have been incorporated into this type of contract. I know that the gentleman has talked about they do their own security background checks. The court will also do that as well, just as a safety double check. We also do a comprehensive safety training for all those individuals, because they will be entering some very off-limits space in our court services area. So for them to be into that space unescorted by rule, they will have to undergo that, and we'll take care of that. It's about 2 hours, but we don't envision any issues with that.
Okay.
So
Any other concerns you would have with us entering into a contract with Armament today?
none whatsoever.
All right, thank you.
With that, I'll move approval of the contract.
Motion made to approve the contract by Commissioner Bueller,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you very much, and good luck. We look forward to working with you. Madam Clerk, our next item.
Item F, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, consider approval of an out-of-state travel request for one employee to attend the National Recreation and Park Association 2018 Revenue Development and Management School at the National Training Center in Wheeling, West Virginia, at a cost not to exceed $3,500 from the operations budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Knight, Parks and Recreation. As the clerk just read, we would like to send somebody to one of the National Recreation and Park Association's schools. This specific school is the Revenue Management and Development School. One of the key things that comes from our master plan is the strategy that we need to rely less and less on property tax dollars and find other sources of revenue and those type of things. Hopefully, we'll be able to find that from this trading. Be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
And so the intent and goal from this training is hopefully we're doing things that enhance the overall position of Parks and Rec and make it more comprehensive for the public?
Absolutely, yes. I did sit down and, before we put this on the commission agenda, I did visit with Betty Griner, and I won't speak for her, but she appeared in our meeting to be supportive of us doing something like this. And when she's not, she usually comes racing right up here beside me, so.
Commissioner Bueller, any questions?
I support this. I'll move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller for approval. Commissioner Archer, any questions or comments?
No, I'll second. I would like to see a comprehensive trip report on this because it is important that we develop new revenue sources for improving parks and recreation. So I'll second.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Bueller for approval, seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Our next item.
Item G, Commission Number 1, acknowledge receipt of the resignation of Dwayne Johnson from the Topeka Shawnee County Public Library Board, representing the 2nd Commission District.
Mr. Johnson served for the Library Board for many terms, including before I became a commissioner. I wish to thank Mr. Johnson for his years of service to the Library Board. He did an excellent job. He had recently sent a correspondence indicating that he thought it was time for him to step down and that he wished to have somebody new fill that position. And so I would move to acknowledge receipt of his resignation from the Library Board and that I will be looking for a replacement for him.
Okay, second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook to acknowledge receipt and seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item G2, acknowledge the appointment by Commissioner Bueller of Luke Yoder to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Advocacy Board.
And Commissioners, Calvin Kenny had served in this position for a while, but he was unable to continue, and so on this motion, I'll move to accept Calvin Kenny's resignation, but then appoint Luke Yoder to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. Luke is a native of Silver Lake and a recent Washburn University graduate, and so he's very excited to get started. So.
I'll second that. So motion made by Commissioner Bueller to accept the resignation and appointment then of Luke Yoder to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board.
Correct.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
At this time, if there's any member of the public or department heads that wish to have any administrative communications with the commission, this is your opportunity.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kellen Seitz, Spectre Venue Management, at the Kansas Expo Center. I did want to give a brief update on some very productive meetings we had last week with Washburn University. We met with their Career Services Department to begin the stages of starting our internship program with Washburn University. That's something that I know throughout the RFP process we were very engaged with, and we're looking to get that underway. We will also be participating in guest lecturing sessions with the university to give those students an understanding and idea of what it's like to be employed in the industry in which we serve. So that's something we're looking forward to. Again, we are 1 week away from our performances of Cirque du Soleil Crystal. Ticket sales are going very well. We've seen in many recent events a large majority of our ticket sales coming within that last week, so we're expecting a very large swing in the ticket sales this week as well to follow that. And that's what I have for you today.
Great. Any questions for Kellen? All right. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Commissioners. Linda Oaks from the Health Department. As we've all seen in the media know, this has been a pretty rough flu season, and so the Health Department is running a special on flu shots. They're free. So we have a limited amount left, and we want to be able to get those out to folks. So I encourage anyone who still needs a flu shot to please come in. It's just until the supply runs out. It's at the 2115 Southwest 10th Clinic. And I know a lot of people have come up to me and said, I got the flu shot and I still got the flu. And yes, that does happen, but the flu shot can help make you less sick and possibly prevent hospitalization. It also prevents overall hospitalizations and deaths go down when people have flu shots. And the B strain is really just getting started, and that strain is also in the flu shot. So we're going to see some more flu this year, so I encourage everyone to get a flu shot if they haven't done that yet. Stay home if you're sick, and wash your hands. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other administrative communications this morning? Commissioner Bueller?
I just want to say congratulations to Chief Cochran, the new Chief of Police for Topeka, the Topeka Police Department. I really look forward to his leadership and working with him. I know he's really excited. And also, just welcome and congratulations to the new mayor and new members of the city council. Again, look forward to working with them as well. And I think we're going to all be seeing each other this afternoon at the Greater Topeka Partnership Luncheon. So,
Yes.
that's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Archer?
I don't have anything this morning, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yes, we do have a luncheon later today with the Greater Topeka Partnership. Formerly, it would have been the Topeka Chamber of Commerce, but this is more inclusive and adding more groups and partners, recognizing that a more holistic approach to how we do things in Topeka and Shawnee County. I also understand that Eric maybe is celebrating 29 years with WIBW. So congratulations, Eric. I think if Eric calculated all the times he came to the county commission meeting, over 29 years, he'd be the longest-serving commissioner. Madam Clerk, I don't have any other additional administrative communications. If we could move on to our next item.
Item 6, executive session.
There is not a need for an executive session today, so we are adjourned. Following adjournment, we will be going into a meeting of the Shawnee County, Kansas Public Building Commission. So, at this time, I'll allow anybody to leave if they wish to leave. We'll begin our meeting in just one moment.